Okay, I have the reset set on high. Now watch what happens at startup. So it does the program, but then it goes off into space. So I think what happens is one of the bytes is misprogrammed into memory. Let's wait a few seconds. And you can see the light went on. It did execute a certain portion of code. Let's do this again. And you can see it executed a partial bit of code, and it started at an upper memory value. So I gotta find out why it's starting at an upper memory value rather than not resetting. So again, by keeping reset high, it does load at memory 0. Let's wait a few seconds. And see, now it's loading like that though. So now the thing is to check either wiring to the processor or wiring to the memory core. And the problem is not all the memory is partially wired, so it's set. So maybe I gotta ground the memory. So let's see what happens if I ground the memory. It is sending data to the latch, and it is running the program partially, but for some reason it is not resetting properly. I gotta figure out why it's not resetting properly. What the problem is for why the Z80 is not resetting, and just going through and checking the cables here. But it is running a program. It is doing what it's supposed to, reading data from the disk, but just not starting at location 0 upon startup. So I need to figure out what to do on startup. Memo, the KZ80 is running a code, and for some reason it's stuck in high memory. The reset function isn't working, but when it does start in low memory, then it jumps up to high memory, but that can't get the reset button to start it to low memory. But when it does start low memory, it does write a code. It does send a signal to the LED. Let's see if I can duplicate this again. And let's see, normally sometimes if I turn it on, and then you can see it started from low memory, then went to high memory. Let's see if we can duplicate this. You can see again, it did it. Let's see if we change the see, it's reading data. Now you can see it's on instruction 3. But for some reason it's on F lower memory like that, you can see. So it's reading FF. Okay, let's try to see what happens if we change the megahertz to, if we change the signal to 211. And let's run it. The KZ80 computer runs sporadically. What happens, it is executing a sequence of code, and it does light to the LED. Let's see if I can, if you do a certain technique here, it lights to the LED. You can see the lights flashing. Let's just try doing a hardware reset. See, now as you can see, it ran and it low values to the LED. It went to 0 and low values to the LED, but it seems to be going into upper memory values. So I got to find out what the problem is regarding the coding. I might have entered the memory code in the memory improperly when it does the jump back. So that's what I need to check, because it is writing some data into the register and it is cycling. So the reason why the LED flashed momentarily and then went out is because as it was powering up, there's enough power to flash the LED, but then for some reason the power was draining somewhere else, and it wasn't and there wasn't enough to turn the power. So that explains why it started at 0.65 volts and went down to 0 instead of maintaining 4.92 volts. So next step is to try a new board, the same type of experiment, but just a better solder technique to see basically that we can maintain 4.92 volts on the other end of the plugs. Let me know what you think. This is the first time started resoldering in a long time, so let me know. And if you want to offer tips, go ahead. YouTube, Facebook, X, and Pinterest. And thank you for watching Diana's Makerspace. Now, running the continuity test, you can see that basically it's full continuity. It's conducting a current. It's going all the way through, but for some reason with the power supply, it's dropping. It goes from 0.65 to 0.15 to nothing. And so what happens is basically there's a continuity. The solder experiment did work partially, but the next is now to try to do it better so it works with the power supply. Okay, on a full power test, for some reason, it's just conducting 0.65 volts through the power instead of 4.98. Somehow it's losing about 4 volts. So this explains, but what happens, it did pass the continuity test. So this was, I rate this as a partial success. Now it's going to 0.16 and 0.15. So for some reason, basically, so for some reason, basically, so basically it's a partial success, but that does demonstrate that the concept did work, and my soldering needs more practice. So let me know what you think. The best way to reach me is on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Pinterest. Now let me just run it one more time to show you what it looks like with the with the continuity test. And now continuing with doing a continuity test from the main breadboard before the power circuit's connected in, the continuity is working fine. So now let's do a full power test. Hello and welcome to Diana's Makerspace. I completed the soldering. On the first soldering, it powered up and the LED blew out for some reason, so I did a simple thing by just making a bridge. I'm doing a continuity test, connecting the power here, and as you can see from the continuity meter, it's working. And let's see what happens if it. And you can see basically it does conduct a current. So, but when I tried on the power supply, for some reason I had a little difficulty. I don't understand what happened. But what happens? I'll try it again and see, like that. Let's see what happens if we do it a different way. Hello and welcome to Diana's Makerspace. I'd like to show you a little bit of what I've done with my makerspace, and to coin a phrase from James Burke, today is the day the universe changed as far as how I do things as a makerspace. Now switching back, you can see some of it is still traditional with the two T's, but what I did something different. I put the pillow on the opposite end of the bed so I can watch both TVs either way. Now if we move over to the window, I added curtains. And also now if we head over to, you can see the pillow. There's the sewing machine, there's the computer, there's support for foam, but you'll notice something different. As you walk in, you'll see basically a maker space station. This was the project I just posted on the last video. You can see the heat gun, the soldering wheel, another soldering wheel, helping hands, and the flame extractor. You can see the soldering box with tools and supplies. A second table underneath from IKEA, which holds 2 laptops so I have a full space. But basically, this low temperature solder works well. I'm going to give it a test in just another hour, make sure everything sets. The next part of this is to wire wrap, and then solder. Also, I'm going to solder basically a 9-volt power supply so I can plug in the leads into the power supply. And I'll show that in other videos too. But this is like the change in the workspace a little bit. So multifunctional, computer, crafting, soldering. Also made the beds, so basically I can watch both TVs at one time. Little table, you can see my little heart-shaped pillow, guitar, and some other things. Well, let me know what you think. Again, just leave comments on YouTube, X, Facebook, and Pinterest. Well, this has been Diana's Makerspace for April 13th, 2025, video 2. Hello, and welcome to Diana's Makerspace. Well, today I tried a little homemade project. I'm using solder paste to make a simple switch before I make a solder project. One thing I always like to remind people is safety first. Always wear rubber gloves. And you notice when I took it off, I took the glove off upside down. And let me just show you something here. Let me just switch the camera here. Okay, I'm going to switch the camera. And I'm going to show you how you take one glove off. Then what you do is you take the other glove. See, I'm holding in my hand. Take it off. And this is how you do it the medical way, because a contaminated glove is inside your outer glove. Your inner glove becomes this way. You can throw this away in the garbage. Now, when you look at this, I used an LDK heat gun, and I also used a fume extractor, heavy duty fume extractor. These are bought from Amazon. You can also buy these from AliExpress. I used the low setting 1, which goes from 140 degrees Celsius to 572. And I approximated, I set the setting at, let me think, 680. I set the setting at about 300 degrees Celsius, just so it didn't melt anything, because I was trying to put on the header, the LED, the resistor, and the switch. It looks a little bit messy because basically it took me a while to get used to how to use the solder paste. And the other thing is basically this does run on standard power supply, and basically make sure you have a clear work area. This is a solder pad that goes up to 900 degrees Celsius. And you open the window to make sure you have plenty of ventilation always. Like this, I shut the bedroom door. So basically, now as you can see, according to instructions I found on Google search, you do this for about 90 seconds at 170 degrees centigrade. And then it takes about 6 hours to set. So in a few hours, what I'll do the next step where I solder the wire connections on from here, power to resistor to switch to long leg of LED, then back to ground over here. And this will be just a simple test switch to see how this works. I have some other solder projects I bought, but I want to do this just to get a little practice, and also a little practice with soldering like that, though, because I do like making homemade projects, and this will help me do this. Well, let me know what you think. The best way to reach me is by Facebook, X, YouTube, and Pinterest. Well, this has been Diana's Makerspace for April 13th, 2025.
Hello and welcome to Diana's Makerspace. This is the KZ80 redesigned so that I can take the flash memory out. And as you can see, it has three status displays. The data display goes D0, D7, and then the address display goes the opposite way, A0, A7, A8, A7, and that was done to match the microprocessor. So basically, the next step is to power up the main memory board over here and then run the test. When it runs the test, it should, what it will do is it will light the yellow LED and the blue LED, and the center blue LED will be low. So what happens next step is to do the test, and this is the reset circuit that's used on power up. What it does, it uses a capacitor. So when it goes on power up, it takes some time for the capacitor to charge, not really a lot, but so while it's charging, it sets the reset low, and by setting the reset low, it gives the processor time to do a full reset. And then by the time the capacity is fully charged and clock signal is running, the program will start at location 000. Well, let me know what you think. And the best way, as I said, YouTube X, Facebook, and Pinterest. And and the next step is to basically do the full power up and test the new redesign. This has been Diana's Makerspace for April 18th, 2025.
Hello, and welcome to a special Ideas with Diana on this April 15th, 2025. Um, in regards to the UK Supreme Court decision defining sex by birth, I have concerns. As I was watching an interview on Sky News, I could see that the commentator was very concerned about this decision. And also, when she interviewed an MP of the Scottish Parliament in Dundee about this, I could see the person being interviewed was concerned as to how this is going to go. According to the interview, this decision is supposed to um, only affect the Gender Equality Act of 2010 that exists in the UK. After the interview, I went to internet to look to find out exactly what a summary of the Gender Equality Act, and part of it includes non-discrimination in the workplace of individuals who have gender reassignment, whether by surgery or by hormones. Well, with the current decision in the UK, it begs the question: with individuals who do have gender reassignment that are working in the UK, Scotland, and Wales, based on this decision, will they have protection in the workplace? And that though, and the question, and from what I saw at the interview with the MP of the Scottish Parliament, um, I don't think that is. I don't think. I think that's very muddy. Things haven't been clarified, and from the interview, I felt that basically there still was a lot of gray area and wiggle room, um, and just basically, I'm a little concerned about this because basically equality is an issue for everybody, regardless of whether you're transgender or not. Especially in the workplace, especially if someone's in homeless shelters, especially if someone's in the hospital, especially if someone's in other places. So I have concerns about the UK Supreme Court decision today, and I'm glad the commentator at Sky News did ask important questions. But I could see basically, even after the interview, she was shook by the person's response about how this happened. And although the word clarity was mentioned a few times during the interview from the person being questioned, um, I still concerns whether things have really whether clarity really exists or whether it's been unclear, or whether clarity exists in the wrong vein as to that. Does this mean denying protections in the workplace against trans people, people who had gender reassignment, and other things, and as well as even domestic abuse and other matters? Well, let me know what you think. Best way to reach me is on YouTube, Facebook, Pinterest, and X. And I think this is an important issue. I'll comment on other issues in the future.